Loon is incredible. This guy has so much wisdom. He has become the moral compass of our team. And he was a key instrument in everything that we've had going. I'll ride with Loon forever. This is a special man.
Welcome back to the Bay Area Beat. I'm joined alongside my guest, Satchel Foster, who works in scoreboard production for the Niners and Giants. But today we're actually going to be talking Warriors. So we're now 1 week into NBA free agency, but I'm not really sure the Dubs got that message as they've yet to make a single move. Now, I know a lot of people listening to this want to get right into the Jonathan Kuminga endless storyline, but we certainly will. I want to start off by paying tribute to Kevon Looney, a consummate warrior, a forever warrior in my mind. He played 10 seasons with the team, won 3 championships, was instrumental in 2022 during their championship run. We're going to get into our favorite Kevon Looney memories in a sec, Satchel, but I'll open the floor to you. What do you think you're going to miss most about Loon?
Oh, so many things. I mean, he was just like a consummate pro, great rebounder, went to the school of Draymond in terms of being kind of an undersized big, and was really just an amazing role player, an awesome guy. I mean, he battled through some injuries in those 19 finals and just left it all out there every time he was out there with, sometimes he didn't always have it. I think some injuries along the way kind of zapped some of his athleticism, but great dude, great player, and Kevon Looney will be missed.
Yeah, he'll certainly be missed. I don't think I had a friend reach out to me and ask if he's going to get his jersey retired. I don't know if he's that level of aura in Warriors history. I love Kevon. I think we don't win 2022 without him. I don't think we get past the Grizzlies without him. But, when you're already going to have Steph, Clay, Dre, probably KD, probably some sort of Steve Kerr, not jersey retirement, but his name in the rafters, it's going to be hard to maybe have a 6th guy. But if they do have a 6th guy, it certainly would be Kevon. I think he's probably my favorite, if you want to call him role player of this entire era. Sean Livingston's up there. I mean, Andre Iguodala, another name we mentioned, who already has his name in the rafters. So, you can only limit that there. But yeah, he kind of reminds me of Iggy in the way that like he might leave. Iggy left, we traded him, but he's still forever going to be a Warrior. He's like, regardless of how he does the next 2 years, I kind of buried the lead there. He's signed a 2-year deal with the Pelicans. Hopefully going to kind of anchor that pretty young team, maybe teach some of the young guys, Derek Queen, a little bit about playing center in the NBA. I think that was a deal that the Warriors were never going to offer him, and he even said that in his Players Tribune article that I kind of want to get into because I read that yesterday and it almost brought some tears to my eyes because him kind of retelling all his favorite memories in the Bay and Oracle, Chase Center. What do you think? 10 years of Kevon Looney, what do you think's your favorite memory? Or what's the one you'll think of most when you think of his time with the Dubs?
I mean, there's a lot there, right? And I think there's a lot of like games or moments that I think a lot of people will look at, but I'm gonna get very, very specific here in that one of my favorite Kevon Looney memories or moments was Game 4 of the 22 finals, actually. Everyone remembers that as the Steph game, but Kevon Looney had like a very important layup in like the final minutes of the fourth quarter of that game.
I know exactly which play you're talking about too.
And that was one of those things where it was just like, it was kind of surreal in the sense of like, Kevon Looney's the guy hitting this shot right now, but it was also like, of course Kevon Looney's going to make this layup. And of course, he's in the right place at the right time because that was his game, right? He was always kind of in the right place at the right time. And so I think that's my favorite Kevon Looney moment because it was probably his biggest in terms of impact.
It's crazy that it's like one layup you're thinking of, but I know exactly the play, they were up 3 in Boston, a minute and a half, 2 minutes left, whatever it was. It extends it to a 2-possession game, completely changed the landscape of the end of that game. And like you said, they had Steph, they had Clay, they had Jordan Poole, they had all these options, and it's Kevon Looney, the consummate, 9-year vet, 8-year vet maybe at the time, is getting inside against, a Celtics team that everyone said he would kind of get dominated between, they had Rob Williams, they had Al Horford, they were considered to be this big defensive unit. And Kevon Looney was awesome that series, awesome that run. I have a few. I'm glad you kind of picked a little more of a niche one because it kind of opens up a few for me. I have to say though, although they didn't go much past this, it has to be in 2023 in Game 7 in Sacramento. Everyone remembers that game for being Steph's 50 burger. Game 7 closeout game. Steph was incredible. Maybe one of my favorite Steph games of all time, if not what you were just talking about, Game 4. It's kind of funny those two are pretty interweaving with some of their highlights. But Game 7, he has 21 rebounds, 11 points, 4 assists, was monumental against Domantas Sabonis and kind of, I don't want to say shutting him down, but like he really limited Sabonis, who was the Kings' best playmaker, best rebounder at the time. And, Domantas Sabonis is a 13, 14 rebound per game guy. And Kevon really like did his best. Like, the Wilt Chamberlain, Wilt Kevon memes that you see out there, that like he was awesome. A few others I kind of think of is in 22 against Memphis, Game 6, he has 22 rebounds, his career high. The series after that, he has 18 rebounds against Dallas. So it kind of, for me, like, we have Game 6 Clay, he has all his lore around him, and I think we need a name for it. It's like closeout Kevon. All of his best memories, or some of his best moments, come in these winner take all games, or when they need to close it out in Memphis, in Dallas. And he really was one of those guys that, like, when crunch time hit or when playoffs hit, like, he has his 5 highest rebounding games of his career all in the playoffs. Like, this is a guy that played 82 games a year in 22 and 23 and most of 24. Like, he is, other than, injuries early on in his career, he is a guy that has played almost every game, and yet he continues to get better come playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, and he was such a little things player, right? Like he was a master of all the little things, setting screens, boxing out, and you mentioned some of those moments. You talk about the one against Memphis where it's like that was a Game 6 Clay game, but a lot of those shots were coming off of Kevon Looney offensive rebounds.
Yep.
And some of the bigger ones especially. And that game 7 against Sacramento, there was an article that came out afterwards about how Steph gave this whole speech to the team. It was like, if you're not going to be in it, then like don't get on the bus. And really, honestly, if you watch that game, it seemed like Kevon Looney and Steph were the only guys that actually got on the bus.
100%.
It was really just the two of them that took them to the finish line. And it was also honestly really satisfying as a Warriors fan to see Kevon Looney do that, because Sabonis was so annoying in that series, just the way he played. And, we don't have to get into the Draymond of it all, but
the stomp on the chest. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. He helped his case at all.
Well, yeah, I me, I'm a big Draymond defender. We could, that's a rant for another day, but, so I mean,
do an hour on that.
Yeah, totally. Well, one day we'll just carve out a day and we'll just do a Draymond podcast. But no, I mean, he's always been there. He's been so consistent, and I wish him the best in New Orleans. But as we maybe transition to talking about, some of the Warriors free agency stuff and some of the Jonathan Kuminga stuff, Kevon Looney's deal has not been announced by New Orleans or by the Warriors, and so that might mean that there might be something attached to that signing.
It's kind of interesting. It's been a week now, exactly 7 days since he signed in New Orleans, and they're tricklings out. He's made his goodbye post to the Warriors, but like the fact that the deal hasn't been signed yet makes me feel like there has to be some sort of sign and trade, some sort of compensation. Like, New Orleans has also been very heavily tied to Kuminga, and I would love a Trey Murphy. I would love a Herb Jones. Trey Murphy's making a lot of money, but if that would be the ultimate like parting gift from Kevon Looney. Like, gives us 10 incredible years, 3 championships. Like we said, was incredible the last half of his career once kind of injuries settled, and then in the end, he kind of helps get us this new piece to usher in this last of the Steph Curry era. We can only dream. I guess. Probably by the time this podcast comes out, we still won't know. But hoping for some sort of compensation there. So let's move into Al Horford. Let's move into Jonathan Kuminga. Before we do that, my last little kind of thing on Looney, and This was a quote from his Players Tribune article. This is the one that kind of sat with me the most. It was one of his closing lines. He goes, "Throughout my 10 years with Golden State, there was never a second where I wanted to be anything other than a Warrior. Even though I'm going somewhere else now, I can tell you that for sure that everyone out here is still going to be family to me forever. I'm Bay Area for life, no matter where I go." So we love you, Kevon. You're always got a home in San Francisco, Oakland, El Cerrito, Alameda, Marin. I'm sure you will never have to buy another beer in any of those towns ever again.
Definitely not. Yeah, shout out Kevon Looney. Dads everywhere around the Bay Area are, pouring one out for you. But not
Right.
just the dads. Everybody loved Kevon Looney, but he was very much stereotypically a guy that your dad would glom onto and be like, "This is a player right here."
Oh yeah, all fundamentals, all like effort, hustling. I love Kevon. So the one signing that has been rumored to the Warriors ever since free agency started was Al Horford. There's been no dollar figure attached to it. There's been no years attached to it. There's been nothing other than amongst league circles, it's highly anticipated that Al Horford will sign a deal with the Warriors. Now, my expectation is that's all tied to Jonathan Kuminga, and those two moves are going to kind of happen in conjunction with one another. But assuming that this deal is as much of a foregone conclusion as everyone around the league makes it out to be, what do you think about this kind of replacement for Kevon, and what do you see him as a fit? I know he's 39, but how do you see Al Horford fitting with the Warriors?
I mean, I think, on paper he fits great. I mean, he'll rebound, he can shoot it a little bit, decent defender, but the age thing does scare me a little bit, and even in talking about this deal, I've seen reports that he's also considering just retiring. So, I mean, if your big fish is a guy who's maybe on the fence about even coming back, I don't know what that says about where this team is going. I have some questions about it, but it has potential to help them if he can, stay healthy and, not break down at the end of the year because he's old. But the Warriors are always going to need multiple moves. And so, I mean, it's hard to grade just the one move on its own, not knowing what else is coming. But if that's kind of the biggest move they make, then I'd give it a solid D+.
Fair enough. I think that's I'm glad you kind of ended there with the sentiment of like, this is on paper, I think a move that actually fits them pretty well. Yes, I wish he wasn't 39 and potentially thinking about retiring, and I thought he was going to retire 2 years ago when he won the championship with the Celtics, but he is a really high IQ player. He obviously, like you mentioned, he's the center who can shoot threes. He's a willing passer. He's still been like really impactful for the Celtics the last 2 years, like was critical on that finals run 2 years ago. And then even in the playoffs, like he was playing 28 minutes a night. And while Kristaps was hurt or sick or whatever was going on with him, like him and Luke Cornett, like he was really important to that team. And I wish he was a couple years younger, but I do think he fits well with the Warriors. But if that is the only move they make, like how do we expect this season to be different than last? Like all you're doing is swapping out Kevon Looney for Al Horford. Doesn't really seem like that's moving the needle much, especially when teams like the Rockets and Nuggets, I think, have got way better with, Kevin Durant for the Rockets, and then the Nuggets just revamping their entire supporting cast around Jokic, switching out MPJ and replacing him with Cam Johnson, Bruce Brown, like a lot of like Jonas Valanciunas. So yeah, I hope there's more to it. I'm kind of assuming because this deal is kind of played out for about a week that like it is tied to multiple components. Like we saw that 7-team trade that just happened yesterday where the Warriors were technically a part of it, but them being a part of it was literally just taking the draft picks that they took on draft night. So it's weird. Like we're living in this post CBA world where you really can't exceed the luxury tax, or if you go past the first apron, like you can't do it more than once, or you are like the penalties and the scrutinizing behind it is massive. So teams you kind of see are way more like patient and conservative with making these big moves. It's kind of made, in my opinion, free agency like a little bit more boring. It kind of feels like the MLB offseason where teams are scared to just go all out because of the restrictions. And we see that with MLB, like Bryce Harper's, all these guys don't get signed until 2 months into the off season, and I'm hoping we get some Jonathan Kuminga resolution before then. But yeah, man, it's I don't know. I'm hoping that Al Horford, Jonathan, like there's a bigger piece kind of, and in my mind, that's I'm hoping that's a Jonathan Kuminga sign and trade. What do you think? Let's hop into it. I'm going to call this Jonathan Kuminga Conundrum Part 439. Seems about right. What's
Yeah.
your thoughts? Where we stand a week in? He's clearly there's a difference between what he values himself at, what the Warriors value him at monetarily. The floor is yours.
I mean, well, first of all, I think this has got to be the biggest offseason for the sign and trade probably ever, just as a concept. Seems
Totally.
like every single free agent signing has been attached to a trade in some way, shape, or form. There haven't been a lot of just straight up deals. But on the Kuminga front, I mean, where do we even start? It's it's hard. I don't want to necessarily harp on the whole experience, as I think where I'm at with it is I'm ready for the experience to be over with. And the saga to be done. I'm ready for him to go somewhere else. And then, that article to come out about how his time with the Warriors was horrible and he was mistreated. And then, he'll come in with the Pelicans or the Kings or the Washington Wizards and probably drop 35 on the Warriors in like a 10-point loss. I'm ready for all of it.
Right.
But
that article's even kind of come out already. Like he did that.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah.
In his third year, he already was complaining about Steve Kerr, a 9-time champion, and this guy at 21 years old.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing too, is I think he's finding out also that maybe the league doesn't value him in the way that he was hoping they would. And It feels like the Warriors kind of have all the leverage in this scenario in which they're like, either you stay with us and we're going to pay you less than what you want, or you'll get your maximum value, but you're going to go somewhere else. And I don't think it's best for either side, honestly, for them to reunite. And I just hope that wherever he goes, that the Warriors can get something good in return. But I think also getting him out, I think, would be a net positive in terms of just like the cohesiveness of the team, because I feel like just his attitude, his style of play, whenever he's out there, you could see he's kind of just trying to get his, and on a team that actually wants to win, that's just not helpful.
It felt like it's been like 4 years of the Warriors like falling in and out of love with JK, and like if the Warriors do extend him, which I don't know, I've kind of leaned that way, not in terms of what I want, but I think what's going to happen. You mentioned that they have all the leverage. The only team that could sign Jonathan Kuminga for the dollar amount he's expecting and not have to incorporate the Warriors as a sign and trade partner is the Nets. And I don't really see the Nets having too much interest there. Like they already have, they drafted 5 rookies. Like their team is already young enough. Like, do you need another 22-year-old that's going to be, like you said, only looking to get his and only looking to score? Like you have Cam Thomas, who is another restricted free agent, but like how many of those guys do you want to have on roster? And then at the same time, we say all this, and I'm like, he was driving me crazy the second half of last season, to the point where it was clear that Steve Kerr had zero trust in him. And at the same time, he's 22. And in his last 4 games against the Wolves, while Steph was hurt, he had 18, he had 30, he had 23 and 26, all on 55% shooting from the field. Like I'm not saying that's like budding superstar. I think he needs to get an outside shot in order to even be a star in this league. Like outside of Giannis, who is as dominant as anyone outside of Shaq I've ever seen, like there aren't superstars in this league that can't shoot threes or can't shoot mid ranges and space the floor. I don't know if he's ever going to get to there. Like he's 22, so there's all the potential in the world, but the shooting hasn't gotten better in the couple years that he has. What do you think about like some of the rumors we've heard? Like I heard the Kings were interested and offered him Devin Carter, who was their first round pick in 2024, Dario Saric, who I assume is just like a salary filler. I want nothing to do with Dario Saric in 2025 and 2 seconds.
No, I mean, I think the Kings are they're trying shit, right? They're like, hey, let's just see. Because at the end of the day, I'm like, if it's with that offer in particular, if it's between keeping him and getting that return, I'd rather keep him, because I think he's a better player than either of the two that Sacramento offered. And, the Warriors have been decent with drafting second round picks, but I'm tired of second round picks. I think if you're doing a deal with Sacramento, like, and I don't know that he's on the table, but in an ideal world, I'm like, I would love Keegan Murray, but I don't think that's going to happen. And beyond that, I just don't know what else you would really want from Sacramento in a sign and trade there. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really hopeful, as I mentioned earlier, that with the Kevon Looney signing being unannounced, that perhaps it's a New Orleans situation, and I would love to get a Herb Jones or a Trey Murphy back, someone who can shoot the three, someone who could play some defense. So that's what the Warriors are going to need. It's wings who can shoot and who can play defense.
Those are two guys I like when I go to bed at night, like think of having Warrior jerseys on because of the way they play. And like you said, Trey Murphy is a three, could play even a four with his size and is an elite 3-point shooter. Herb Jones is like going to be a first or second team all defensive guy for the next 8 to 10 years. Like you can pretty much write that in pen. Like those are two guys I think would really gel well with the Warriors. Like I don't really see where the other like deals are, and at the same time, like if you're New Orleans, like do you want to offer those guys if you don't have to? Like this is a sign and trade. Like it's traditional sign and trades, you're not getting the full value of the guy. You're getting parts and salary fillers to make it work. But when we signed and traded Kevin Durant, you got D'Lo back, and that's probably one of the higher end examples of like the best outcome you can come. You turn that into Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga, believe it or not, who we're talking about now. This world it feels like a flat circle sometimes. So you realize like how everything is interweaving and interconnected.
Yeah.
What do you other teams that have shown some interest are the Wizards, the Heat, the Bulls. What about like a Bobby Portis sign and trade? He just signed with the Bucks, but that's someone that they could probably both work out a double sign and trade from.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind a Bobby Portis. I think him and Draymond on the same team would be amazing to watch, just from an entertainment standpoint. I'm in on Bobby Portis. The Wizards are a team where I'm like, again, I don't know.
What's the assets?
Yeah, like what am I getting out of that? Definitely not trading for CJ McCollum.
Like the fifth time in 7 years this guy's got.
But with the Bulls, I'm like, if they're trying to get out of the Kobe White business, I think it's an intriguing option. Everyone talks about Vucevic, but I mean, what is Vucevic but not a polished Quentin Post who's on the wrong side of 30?
Yeah. He's making way too much and is too old and doesn't play enough defense. What about like Josh Giddey? I don't to be perfectly candid, I don't know all the machinations of the CBA, but those are both guys, same draft class, actually drafted back-to-back 6th and 7th in the 2021 draft, and both right now are sitting in free agency without any deal. And as we've talked about, like it's a really bare market. Pretty much no one has salary cap. Like I would love a Josh Giddey. Like it might be kind of a weird fit. Like obviously Steph is there, Brandon Podziemski is there, but like another guy who's always like a connective passer, always making kind of like that extra pass. And he shot the ball pretty well last year with the Bulls too, to give him credit.
Yeah, I mean, a change of scenery could do him some good. Or, I think I'm in on that, especially if the other option is Vucevic. I think the Warriors need guys who could they need guys who can do everything. They need another guy who can handle the ball. They need another guy who can shoot. They need another guy who can play defense. And so if they can just find some individual pieces to fit one of those needs, let's do it, because weirdly, like Jonathan Kuminga, despite how good he is, can't really do any of those things. Like he wasn't really a good defender unless he really, really wanted to be, which was unfortunate because you saw when he wanted to be, he could do it. Doesn't really have a great handle, wasn't a super willing or great passer, and definitely needs to work on the jump shot. So if you could turn a player who really lacks all the things that you need into filling one of those needs, let's get it done.
It's funny when like we are so high in some ways on Kuminga and his potential, but you're like, well, he needs to learn how to shoot and dribble and play some defense. It's like, well, what's the positives here? Like and you're right, he's incredible inside and stuff, but I think that's kind of like the apex of this whole argument is like he has some incredible skill sets and obviously the potential's there, but like he doesn't fit the Warriors timeline and he doesn't fit what they need and how to build around Steph and how to build around Dre, and Clay's not there, but like shooting, perimeter defense, stretch wings, like it's I don't know. Like the conundrum of Jonathan Kuminga has to be one of the more confusing. I go back and forth on it all the time, like situations in recent Warrior history, because he does have some traits. Like I know for a fact if he goes to Washington or if he goes to Chicago, one of these teams where he can kind of have free range and start and play 35 minutes a night, like he's going to be a 20-point per game guy, maybe 25-point per game guy. And he's going to get his, but the team's going to lose a lot. And I don't think he's going to really care. And you're going to see him smiling after games when they lost by 30. And like, that's great. You can score. That's a component to winning in this league, but I don't know if like he's ever going to figure out the other tools that kind of get him to being a guy who can play with Steph at the tail end of his career.
I've said this a lot. It's just the most frustrating thing about it is it's not a lack of talent problem. Like it's not like he just never figured it out in terms of like being able to play good basketball. It's just all a mentality thing with him, which just makes it all the more frustrating. But he's going to get his not that I'm comparing them because I think DeMarcus Cousins cared more about winning, but I think he's going to get his DeMarcus Cousins all-star appearances where he's averaging 20 and 10 and playing on the 13th best team in the conference and whatever. I wish him the best in those endeavors, but yeah, that's I think the hardest thing about this situation though, right? Is he really could be what they need if he just cared.
Totally. I think that's a good place to end it. And that's why the situation and why this 4-year run with him has just been so like aggravating and also not as rewarding as you'd want it to be, because you see the flashes and you get so excited and you go, oh my God, this guy's 22 years old and doing this. And then you see him miss these back cuts and you see him just get lost on an assignment and then doesn't play the entire second half of last season and only played in the playoffs once Steph got hurt. Like I just don't see what's going to change if they bring him back. And I don't want them to lose him for nothing. I don't want them to lose him for Devin Carter and Dario Saric, but make something happen in New Orleans, or maybe they reconsider bringing him back on the qualifying offer for a year and he plays it out and he's an unrestricted free agent next year. But even that situation sucks because then he's on a prove it deal the whole year and he's like, I need to get 20 plus and I need to show to the rest of the league that I can score. And it's like, dude, the rest of the league knows you can score. The rest of the league knows like what you can do inside. It's the other things. It's the intangibles. It's like the microcosms of like playing actually good defense and how that can contribute to a winning team is like where he continues to lack. And I don't know if like year 5 is just going to click for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the synopsis really is that he's a great one-on-one player, but I don't know if he's a great 5-on-5 player, I think a lot of Warriors fans and Warriors people are just kind of over it because it's like he's had time to try to adjust to things or, just show a willingness to do something different. And he hasn't done it. And there's no reason for us to believe it's going to be different, especially after signing him to what he wants to be a very lucrative deal. Yeah, I don't know. It's time. And hopefully, the next time me or anyone else hops on this pod to talk Warriors, it's because he has made his exit.
Let's leave it there. I'm hoping that in the next couple days, hopefully it doesn't drag on longer than that, we hear more about Kuminga. We get the Al Horford signing, a few more guys. GP2 is still a free agent. I'd love if the Dubs can bring him back for no more than the vet minimum. If not, like, thanks for everything you did, GP2. You're not a mid-level guy. And yeah, let's circle back in a couple weeks. Hopefully we'll have a little more Niners training camps in 3 weeks. Giants are about to hit the All-Star break and playing baseball. So
yeah, we'll see. Hopefully the landscape starts looking up. I think, the Giants might be figuring out, but Shams, if you can hear me, break some news for me. Please.
Break some news. Announce Trey Murphy or Herb Jones to the Warriors, please.
Please.
All right. We'll talk soon, Satchel. Thanks for coming on, man.
All right. Thanks for having me.